That which the world has never seen before can be seen tomorrow, and you can be the cause. So today's topic is 9 embarrassing signs that you were born to make fantasies real. So I sent the 9 out to my email list yesterday. There are things that I sent to my email list that are not going to be shared out into the public. If you would like to be on the email list, there will be a link beneath this video within about an hour after I'm done, where you can subscribe to come and join the community, the email community. But I will share them today. I won't go into each one in detail, but I am going to share them today. And then I'm going to zone in on a specific one to talk about, wow, where we're going, what's required for us to make our heart's deepest dreams and fantasies come true. There's so much newness that's required. And if you are in a female body, it's deep. All right, so what are the 9 embarrassing signs that you were born to make fantasies real? I'm gonna read them right now. Actually, before I go into reading them, I'd like to remind folks that links will also be placed beneath this video for the Magic Tour, to buy tickets for the Magic Tour, which is happening in Atlanta, Orlando, New York City, Chicago, Houston, and Oakland. And then next Monday, which is a week from today, doors open to the Arrogant Witch community. So I'll talk more about that later. And I actually think I'm going to be going live within this week. So there's so much to come out. The thought of waiting until Monday makes me feel like no. All right, so what are the 9 embarrassing signs you were born to make fantasies real? Keep in mind, I'm saying this because this is a new show, right? And I got a comment from a woman who this morning who talked about, something applying to everybody. As a reminder, for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Witch Naima. I help magical melanin witches, people who you call Black, pigmented folk, who were born magical, who are witches, witchy, okay? Who are healers, who are occultists, who are alchemists, who are demonologists, who are artists. I help these men and women come into full power, not a fraction of power, full power, so they can do the work that's in their DNA and be paid very well doing it. That's who this show is for. So if that does not apply to you, you are welcome to go to where that content applies to you. Thank you. So the 9 embarrassing signs you were born to make fantasies real as a magical melanin witch. Number 1, you've never really been able to get your shit together in the real world, but you know yourself to be magical. That's number 1. Number 2 is you were literally diagnosed as a kind of genius or with a mental illness, either as a child or as an adult. Number 3, even though you faked it and tried miserably, you've never fit in with those in your world, and now you refuse to pretend to. Number 4, you've lived a marginalized nomadic life for several years. Number 5, you feel a violent conviction to get your specific work, the work that's in your DNA, the work that compels you, the work that makes you restless and unfulfilled unless it is done through you. Okay? You feel a violent conviction to get that work done in the world before you die. That's number 5. And I'm going to stop right there. There are 4 more. And this is to let you know that if you would like to be able to receive this kind of material that's only given to my email community, you will click the link beneath this video to subscribe. And when you subscribe, you will also get a report called 5 Bad Ways to Begin Commanding Larger Money for Magical Melanin Witches. All right, so now, the area that I'd like to focus on of these 5 that I've just shared is that you've never really been able to get your shit together in the real world, but you know yourself to be magical. Okay. So I like to say before I go any further that it felt like before I went live and as I was preparing for this morning, it felt like this could get really weird. Like it could just feel really weird and highly abnormal, which is perfect. I mean, that's who I am on the inside, and it's taken me a long time to get to a point where I could actually verbalize this material for you, for myself and for you. So it's very, very easy to forget living in a world where there's Uber and planes and TikTok and Airbnb and the strategy around everything. It's easy to forget that we birthed everything, that we are the creators, or like the powerful being that you are as a magical melanin witch. It's very hard to even withstand, even if you're highly conscious. And if you're, you're lower in consciousness, this shit just seems ridiculous. So when I was financially struggling, even before I came into this industry 10 years ago, and as I would like pretend to be a certain kind of way in different circles because I didn't want to be labeled crazy or weird, or I wanted to get along, right? Like our base level biological ways of wanting to belong are strong. They have very strong holds on us. And so when I would, fake smile or say yes to things, right? Like you may be doing now. You're doing things that are very displeasing. You may even be with a man. Oh my God. How many of you are with a man who doesn't see you, right? But you're with him because it's comfortable, it's familiar. And that if you were to bring forth the fullness of yourself, even to the degree that you know yourself now, because there's even more to you that you've yet to allow yourself to know, right? But if you were to really reveal yourself to the degree that you know yourself, that you keep quiet around, he wouldn't know how to interact, right? And then, you'd be single, you'd be alone, right? And how much has that pulled at your decision making, right? So when I'm gonna bring it forward, right? When I was struggling, particularly in the transformation space. Now, what makes the struggle in the transformation space different than the struggle when I was building my fashion marketing company is when you're doing the work that you're born for, there's a different requirement level. So you can lie a lot when you're making money doing other things, or when you are giving your time and attention in your life to other things that are removed from what you were born to do. There's a level of faking that you can do, and lying that you can get away with. But when you start doing the work that you were born for, the work that's in your DNA, the work that's meant to shift things, right? If the degree to your lie is the degree to your struggle. So when you lie, you struggle. When you fake it, there's a struggle involved. That's not the same if you're like, I don't know, an attorney who's just doing this work that you're degreed in, you see? Or building a fashion marketing company, as I was once upon a time. And so when you come into doing the work that you were born to do, so, for those of you who are tarot readers or, are doing some other kind of transformational work, and you're doing it in a small, like isolated kind of a way, right? And there's a level of struggle there. It's like if you decided you wanted to go bigger and be more visible and make more money, right? And claim the fullness of you publicly and wield that publicly, the degree to which you disallow that, there's a struggle, right? And that's why there's so much struggle for us, magical melanin witches, and trying to do the work we were born to do in the world, looking at it the way it's so easy to look at because of the, we live in a TikTok world, right? We live in an Instagram world. And because so many people, and stick with me, for so many people, including, like, I've been guilty of this. Like, I haven't, my sight hasn't been clear my entire life, and it refines all the time, right? So many of us have poor sight. We don't see correctly, and we actually choose not to see. All right, this is gonna come around. I feel it right now doing this thing. We choose not to see. What do I mean by we choose not to see? So in the email that I sent out this morning to invite you here, for those of you who may be here from the email I sent them on, the title said, How They Killed Our Magic. How they killed our magic. Who's they, first of all? And killing magic? Nothing is actually killed, is it? Right. Okay. Where are we going, Naima? What? First of all, they is you. Okay, they is you. And I don't really mean kill, I mean hide. Get into it. So, something else that feels very necessary to say right now is the rest of this video will be spoken from a place of communion, not from study. Ooh, sweating. So in the spiritual community, especially with men, when I watch men and women share and teach online, it's mostly men. I'm not saying women don't do it too, but it's mostly men whose knowledge that they distribute comes from what they read. So look at this for yourself. How many books have you read that you love, whether it's by a lot of the famous writers, Dwayne Dyer, Jan Levon Zant, all the books that you've read that you love. And then the spiritual books that tell us about how mankind came about, how spirituality came about, how the ways of, just any movement that you want to talk about, whether it's the, green movement, the feminism movement, the, if you want to go back and you start talking about Kemet and the rise and fall of African kingdoms, talk about the rise and fall of Roman empires, you start talking about the rise and fall of Celtic traditions and cultures, and Greek, and there's books, there's countless books that you and I can read. There's so much, right? We can go to Egypt and read walls and different sacred institutions and tombs, and right, and read text that's there and say, this is what was meant for us to know. This is what was left behind for us to understand what existed at that time and how that influenced the following cultures, and right, on and on and on. And then you see where I'm, right? And I wasn't there. Were you there? Were you there during the rise and fall of Roman Empire? The stories that have been written in books, somebody wrote that story. You didn't, did you write it? All the books that we can read, all the texts, somebody wrote it. So when the impenetrable knowing that is required, the impenetrable knowing that is required. Okay, when I say impenetrable, I mean the knowing that is required for you to birth the work that's in your DNA. Reading texts, regurgitating or interpreting other people's texts, interpreting it and giving it on YouTube is not knowledge. Because, all right, here we go. So when it's time for you to do the work that's in your DNA, which requires impenetrable knowing, it requires that a person can throw the whole African American museum at you. And it's like a feather. Because your knowing comes from communion. This is why if you have a womb, and I said this last week, you must revere your womb like gold. There's intelligence that comes through you that will never come through a male body. Okay, so here I go with the sight again. So I'm hitting different corners. I'm seeing this, okay? Man, there's so much here. When I talk about making fantasies real, what? That don't make fantasy, like, aren't fantasies meant to remain in the world of fantasy? Listen, Naima, we have things to do. We have children to raise. This is an Instagram, hurry up, TikTok, Uber world where I can get an app, I can download it like this, whoop-de-wop, and fantasies, I don't know. We're going to reserve that for the weekend or once the kids go to college and I got more time. Like, that's what normal people say, right? Like, fantasy is like over there, like in some like part-time, maybe, I don't know. I remember when I like decided to stay in Italy. I originally went to Italy for 7 weeks. That was the plan. 7 weeks, and I'll figure out what I'm gonna do from there. During that 7 weeks, I just fell in love with who I was becoming, the life I was living while I was there. And I decided to stay. Met a guy, so blissed out, right? My business is growing. I'm doing the work that I'm feeling called to do. You know, I'm living in Italy, like it's just all this, right? And I remember I had a photo shoot like in the Duomo area. And it was like we were in the center, and it was like I was a mom. I mean, I was eating these like true Italian dishes. I was living in this cute Italian apartment, like something you would see in a movie. I was living a fantasy that once only existed in my mind. What is your fantasy, darling, that will require a significant amount of money? What is the thing that when you see pictures of it, your heart beats fast? Maybe you tear up. It feels so far from you. Like who you are now, connect. Like that just seemed like, that fantasy. Then you take it even further. Come on, okay, we're gonna take it even further. See, because to me, that's easy. To you, that might seem right. But from my experience in doing this, being on this path, walking the knowledge, not just talking it, walking it. There's knowing the path and then there's walking the path. And you go deeper down into the things that you can imagine. Oh, and this takes communion. This takes communion. And this is how you open yourself up to be communicated with dimensions that are beyond you. This is why I talk about you respect and welcome all entities. All entities. All. Remember that book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? And that book was basically him having conversation with the devil. Anything that could feel like the devil, anything that could feel wrong and bad will talk to you and give you its knowledge if you are unafraid of it and you respect it in communion. And there's communication that you being in a female body with a womb, communication that will come through you that will not come through a male body. And this is where we created the war. This is where we created the war. So men, 99.9% of men cannot see women adequately. I'd say 85% of women cannot see themselves adequately. So I'm talking about magical melanin witches. Okay, so I'm getting ready to say something that may sound like a bond. Men should be bowing down when they see correctly. And a magical melanin witch sees herself correctly. So this is the war. You see this war that's going on right now between men and women and the feminism and all that? We created that. Now, I could go back and really talk about how we created that, but we created that, okay? And so what we have now, oh, and another thing, when you get the 5 bad ways to begin commanding large amounts of money, one of the 5 bad ways is really acknowledging that you created everything as a magical melanin witch, everything. Right? And people hear that and they think, you know, oh, I created everything. I am the goddess of creation. Yeah, you created the trees and the moon and the stars, and you also created racism, poverty, and division. Listen, I said full power, not a fraction. I said full power. And sweetness, start with where you are. Remember, I used to fake it too. Start where you are, with who you are now, with what you have now, and allow yourself to reveal yourself to yourself gradually. Okay, you can do this. And that's exactly what Arrogant Witch is here for. So when a man sees correctly and a woman sees herself correctly, a magical melanin witch sees herself correctly. When he sees correctly, he wants to do whatever he can to create the environment for her to be the fullness of herself. The issue that we have today is so many women, I said what, 85% of magical melanin witches do not see themselves correctly. This power struggle between feminism and men, like, stop, right? How about, I don't want that fight anymore. I created it and I don't want that fight anymore. It was fun for a while. I don't want it anymore, right? When I own it all, how about I'm now allowing myself to see all of who I really am, recognizing that I also created this war. I'm finished with this war. Guys, there is sweat rolling down my back right now. I'm finished with that war, and now I will be the fullness of who I am without any projection, without any of the being a fractional part of myself. And when I am that, the man who can see will bow down. This is how I know when a man can see and he can't see, based on how he interacts with me. Any man who can accurately see, the same applies to you. So then you see how far we have to go, right? And here's another thing that is like, we did this too. White men can see us better than most. of our Black men. Listen, this is not to create a war. This is to state what we created. Look, I'm in the trenches. I'm out here. I've told you guys about the Black men. I mean, I haven't told you all of them, but the ones who have come into conversation with me and have called us conjuring power and making fantasies real dangerous. See, because they don't have a womb. See, and this is why the whole story, see, the real, get down to the story of how and why Eve was able to influence Adam, but not reverse. And keep in mind, hello, Eve, listen, oh God, there's a lot of information here, and I'm synthesizing and giving little bits of it, and you got to read the rest and sense the rest. Listen. Wow. Making fantasies real. That's where we're going with this. That's where we're going with this. We can go back and forth and disagree, which I'm so uninterested in. What I'm interested in, what does it take to make your fantasies real? Who is required of you to make your fantasies real? That's it. That's it. And that's what we're doing in the arrogant witch community. Now, in order to do that, you need an environment where it is safe for you to explore that which comes through you but doesn't make sense. You're not going to find it in a book. You're not going to find it on Google. You're not going to find it on some guy on YouTube kicking knowledge, because he got it from a book and he doesn't have a womb. And he most likely cannot see correctly. You know the degree of a man's confidence when you look at his woman. Is his woman in full power? If his woman is not in full power, there's lies and there's veils in that relationship. And we have created it. And let me just, as far as I can see right now, we actually don't want to be with men in the way modern world tells us to be with men. What? We don't want to be with men in the way that the modern world tells us. This whole like get married and have children and raise your kids and travel. Magical Melanin Witches don't want that. We don't. We want power centers that contribute to allowing us to do the work that sits in our wombs and in our DNA. That is an extremely powerful position that most men are unable to be with. We created this. And I can feel that I can, ooh, I'm hot. I ask that you all like the video, please, to get this out there. It matters, like the algorithms, when the video gets liked, it helps it be seen. So, you know, Black women are waking up. The issue that I'm seeing with, you know how YouTube recommends videos for you? And channels have been recommended to me, and sometimes I'll click on it, and what's happening is, oh, thank you so much, thank you so much. So we're all being called, like I said in preparation and marketing for this, that how the magic is looking to be resurrected and come back through us now, clean and pure. So you see online now, you see where it's like, oh, Black women are waking up. You see where it's like, you know, we're starting these businesses. You see these big financial companies investing billions into us. You see right? There's this, like, you see Black women are like, we're not settling anymore. We're not tolerating men who don't provide. Like, you see this, right, this coming. And what is happening is, because 85% cannot see themselves correctly, they're going about coming into power in ways that are actually causing harm, but it's all unconscious for most of them. It's very unconscious. And so you have where women are like, there's this aggressive way of trying to demand respect from men, right? And you see the fights that are going on online where there's this aggression between men and women. Is like this fight where it's like Black man mad and Black woman mad and mad. That is a result of an inability to see each other accurately. When I see, like, I know I can see. When I see a woman who's in her power, depending on how I see, I'm either going to be attracted to her and want to be around her, particularly if I'm a man. I'm going to want to be around her and to create conditions for her to do the thing that she is meant for. And if I'm a woman, I'm going to want to be around her. Now, to the degree that I am blind, to the degree that I'm unwilling to allow myself to see, to the degree that I'm unable to see, because I exist in that large majority that cannot see. And many who have knowledge, the ones who have knowledge from books, who have knowledge from books, I'd like to talk about communing for a moment for you. This is what I would like for you to be able to take away from today's video and apply it to your life when you're in the dark tonight. Burn your candles, take your bath or your shower, be naked or put on some, something that you feel good in, lay wherever you lay for comfort, and really got to make this a practice. You got to make this a practice coming into communion, okay? The only way you will be able to access, I know some of you are already doing this, so I'm preaching to the choir, and some of you are coming into greater awareness as you're listening to me right now. The way to receive the communication that you can receive, you can. This is not maybe, right? You can receive it. I've been saying this in different ways. I talked about it last Friday when I talked about full power through genital arousal. Because when you open yourself up as a female in a female body, with a womb, with all the feminine flair and art and connection that you naturally have, when you truly open yourself up to communication from all dimensions, so that you then can start to, I'm telling you, it's so feminine. It is so, that's why arguing on YouTube is not the way. Like, arguing with men, how can you argue with somebody who doesn't even get the communication that you get? There is no arguing. They don't know. This is why Eve influenced Adam. Adam did not influence Eve. I mean, if you want to look at that story, I'm saying, okay? And things are so reversed, and we created it. Like, it's been like a game of trickery, and like, because we like to be in like fucked up situations and to feel. We don't want to be like peace and like loving all the time, right? When you lay down tonight or tomorrow night and you do all the things that I suggested, like, obviously you intuitively do what's good for you, right? But the point is to get to yourself into a receptive space, physically, emotionally, into a receptive space where you start everything, all dimensions, all entities feel like they can communicate with you. But if you are in a place of no, of aggression, of fear, of any of that, you start fucking with your own self. You start like playing mind tricks with yourself. You create fear. And then you start deferring to men. They can only listen. You set the standard. I don't care what any of. I don't listen. Is it working? Is it working? Just because a woman has a man in her life doesn't mean it's working. If I'm a magical melanin witch and the man is my life is not contributing to me making the work in my DNA out there, he is not the man for me or for you. Listen, you know how much dick and men are around me that would love to be around me, to have access to, just do things to be in my presence. But I can think of a guy now who's just so like mesmerized and is attracted to me, but has a hard time with the fullness of my power. If he cannot see you fully, he is not for you. He is blind. If a man can see accurately, I know it. He shows it, I know, and you know it. And this is where, I don't know if challenge is the word, but it's the next area of standing your ground in a feminine way. Look, don't break your back, okay? Standing your ground, because the men are going to know when we know. Catch that. They are going to know when we know. They are males. They're in a male body. Their makeup is different. The way they interpret is different. The way they receive communication is different. They don't have a womb. They do not have a womb, a carrying center, a receptivity center. They can never, ever, ever receive and know what you know. So then that fucks with the mind of the woman who's not seeing herself yet. If she's been deferring to men, we know, right? If you've been guilty of that, or you know women who defer to men for answers, for, leadership, right? And I'm not going to listen. If you hear it, you hear it. If you don't, you don't, right? Men have a place, but it's not the place that modern world, where the modern world places them, where most women place them. Men are to be respected and revered, and they are necessary for sure. And yet it's not in the tool way that I'll say for myself, how I used to see men as dick providers and money providers. Like, those things are great, good. If that's part of your contribution, good. But one of his primary contributions as a male in your life, if you're going to allow him to have space in your life, he should be the one helping to create the environment and the conditions for what's in your DNA to thrive, what's in your womb to thrive. That's one of his primary purposes. And if you don't see yourself correctly, he cannot do that. If you don't see yourself correctly, if you don't hold the standard correctly, he cannot do that. Do you see the importance of your position and your power and making your fantasies real as a magical melanin? Do you see how you being in the fullness of that makes him better, makes him want to strive to be the man? Do you see the harmony in that? Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Please like the video, ladies. We got to. Now, see, how do I know this? How did I come to this? It's the communing that I need you guys to do. It is not in your books. It's not in your Hermeticism books. It's not in your books on ancient Kemet. There will be some nuggets in there that resonate with you, that you like, that you apply to your life. Yes, that will be there. And the impenetrable knowing that I mentioned earlier, because I got to keep saying this. The work that you are meant to do The leadership, I don't mean this modern day masculine leadership that modern world talks about. When you are in your impenetrable knowing, being in a female body, doing the work that's in your DNA, you lead by simply allowing that to govern your steps. That's your leadership. It's not any like masculine charging, the way modern world talks about leadership and like this strong lead. It's not that. But the only way you can get to impenetrable knowing, see, because when you get your knowledge from books, right? You read, you study with all everything. You study with all the religions. You study with the Farrakhan's and the Muslims and the all there is to study. The Jews, you study Greek mythology. You study ancient African civilization, and you study all of that. It's still external information that's put in a book by other people. Like other people wrote that, and also many of these books have been modified, right? The stories have been retold and then retold again. And we already know how women and powerful goddess leaders who were worshipped, true worship, not this egoic worship that men are so scared of today. No, true worship, because she knew her position. And the men of that time knew her position and they bowed down to her, not from a place of they are inferior and she is superior and there's the ego. She knew who she was, and the men could see. They had accurate sight, and they weren't poisoned by the men on YouTube who are so angry at their inability to see. So angry that they're so influenced by modern ways, so angry that they're not in their own power. And so many women who cannot see themselves, who are on the internet arguing with men who don't even have the knowledge that they have as women. And these women don't even know it because they don't even see themselves. So when I talk about the impenetrable knowing, this comes from the communion. Sweetheart, 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 okay? Your communion comes with you laying down, getting yourself into a receptive space and opening yourself up, being willing, literally calling them in. You call in all entities. And when something comes into your field that feels foreign, that feels strange, that feels bad, you say, thank you. You talk to it. It will reveal its treasures to you. I promise. I guarantee. And when you stay in that space and you make a practice out of it, you don't just do it one time. You do it regularly and you make a practice out of it. And it will be hard and it will be strange and it will be weird. And you will feel like you're only the only one, you're crazy. See here, this is why the arrogant witch community exists. These are the things that we will be doing in a structured, deliberate, organized way. Because I know for sure my knowing is impenetrable. No man can come and tell me, no woman can come and tell me, no book that I can read, no new movement of the day, nothing can penetrate what it is that I know, because it came from community, it came from within me, not a book. It came from within me, not a master teacher. It came from within me, and it is consistent. This is why I say you practice. When you practice and you get into communion and you have respect, remember I said the governing word for the arrogant witch community, and also this is a necessity. This is not optional. This is a necessity, or you will get fucked up. You must respect every single entity. I mean, invisible entities. You must respect every single element of yourself. The part of you that is benevolent and all-knowing and wise, and the part of you that is grotesque and undesirable and ugly. You must respect all entities, no matter how profane, because if you don't, the ones that you reject and deny will torture you. And I mean this literally. They will torture you at a psyche level. They will torture you at a body level. They will torture you in your sleep. They will torture you in decision making, and you will struggle to come to clarity and the decisions that you are meant to make in the next steps of your life, the next high step. You will struggle, you will vacillate, this and that, and this and that. You will not be able to stay steady, that impenetrable knowing that is required. The impenetrable knowing. Because when you start communing and coming into full power and doing the things that we'll be doing in the arrogant witch community and really integrating, bringing into wholeness your dark and your light sides, you are going to disturb the people in your life. And to whatever degree that you deny or disrespect any entity internally or externally is the degree to which you will struggle. And I know this makes sense. So when you respect all entities, all emotions that come through you, all sensations, all voices, you respect without even making anything mean anything. Oh, this means I'm crazy. This means this means I should do this. This means you welcome and you talk to it as if it was a physical person in the room with you. And you listen, and it's a receptive experience. There's no charging, there's no making anything happen, there's no doing, there's none of that. It's a receptive position. And it's a communion, and it's a two-way communication, and it's steady, and it's respectful, and you're listening, and you're waiting, and you call them in. You could, like, and here's something I was thinking about. Do you want to talk to people and give information to people who are closed off to you, who don't respect what you have to say, who don't listen to you, who got all of these, they know everything, they got all these prejudgments, oh, they think this is the place of a woman, she did. You're not going to reveal your wisdom and your jewels and your truth to that person. But if you come across somebody who you meet at a coffee shop, out in your day, and they're curious, and they say, can you tell me more about this idea? What do you mean by that? And they welcome you in. They want to hear what you have to say. Genuinely. You can feel when somebody's genuine, right? You just want to talk and share stuff that you've never shared before. You feel like you want to share with this person who you hardly know. That is what happens when you commune. That is what happens when you commune. So when you meet people, maybe you feel this way about me, like, gosh, how does Naima know this? Where's it coming from? Communion. Communion. I've gotten information that I've never read in a book, but I've also been very averse to books. Like, I'll read a book. I'm not like I don't read books. But when it comes to me gathering knowledge or wanting a higher sense of things, I don't go looking for it in a book. I don't go looking for it in a teacher or on YouTube. I commune. And it was like that before I was even aware of communion. Before I was aware of coaching and transformation and all that I mentioned. Before I was averse to going to look for it out in a teacher. And I made a vow, and I had forgot that I made the vow. And then I remembered when I started to, like, why am I like avoiding going to these people, getting into like teacher-student relationships and all this and all that. And I remembered I was in communion one night, and I remembered that I made a vow, and I actually put this on my about page, that I made a vow that I was going to come to know because I actually know, not because a master teacher told me, not because a book told me. And this is the standard that I'm going to hold you to inside of the Arrogant Witch community. Don't ask me the question. You ask the question, and you expect an answer. Expect an answer. Be receptive to the answer. And when it comes, let it be. That's a whole other level. Let it be. What do you mean, let it be? Don't try to contort it to something that's more palatable to you and other people. If it is profound and doesn't make sense, let it be profound and not make sense, because it will make sense to the people who are at the measurement and the degree that you are at. Darling, This is the work. This is the work. So, like in the email that I sent out yesterday, the money is in the truth. For those of you who are, your business is in transformation and helping other people to transform, and actually your business is the business of transforming to whatever degree that that is, your money is in the truth. What truth? The truth of who you are, and letting what come through you come out of your mouth. It has to come out. Let it show. I talked about this on last Friday's show. You let it show. I'm looking at you guys' comments. Yes. Thank you for saying that, Miss 60. It's not earthbound. So remember I said earlier about the modern world tells us the way we're supposed to want a man and be with a man, how that's supposed to look. And so women get into relationships, get married, and there's great comfort there. There's that security, there's the comfort, etc. And remember I talked last week about some women can do that. And even if they're not in full power, even if they're not to the fullest degree that they personally know that they're meant to do that work, they can endure the not doing that. And then there are the others who break out in hives, literally can't sleep at night, they're tortured in their sleep, they start self-destructing, etc. Those who are the latter, okay? Those who are the latter that I just described. We are not meant to be in typical earthbound ways of relationship. We are not meant to just, be with a man because we like him and, the sex is good and we like each other and we have fun together. There's a dimension and a degree of that works. I've been at that degree and that dimension, and there's a lot of fun there. The sex is great there. There's a lot of goodness, right? But the more that you start to come into full power and the fullness of who you are, not the part of you that's acceptable and just normal. You know what I'm talking about. The part of you that's kind of like is like the rest, right? And the more you start to come into the purified, narrow way of you, that signature, there's the word, thank you, that signature, the higher the standards become. And I don't mean these modern day standards, you gotta have a this and you gotta have the women, I don't know. I mean the sight that the man that you're with, that he has to have. So basically all the rules that govern Earth about male-female relationship that's so outdated, why divorce is at an all-time high, why Black men and Black women are at war like crazy. This is a new dawn, people. People are not taking that literally. Like what new dawn, meaning all that has existed up until now is redone. Like it's a recycling, not recycling, another one. Because nothing dies, right? It falls away and a new way is birthed. So the way that we have done relationships, the way that we have been like, oh, if we're compatible, just gosh. And I said this either last week or the week before, that you cannot be bound to earthly ways of being, earthly ways of thinking. And guess what? When you're not at that level, that feels hard. When you are lower in consciousness or lower in communion, lower in your commitment to your path, this whole not being bound to earthly things sounds very hard and isolating. The higher you go in consciousness and how you see yourself and even your ability to see yourself fully, because it is a lot to fully see yourself. It's a huge responsibility. The higher you go into that, the more you feel protected and in order. protected and in order with not being bound to earthly things. And I don't mean like you don't like jewelry and like wigs, right? Yeah, hello, I'm vain. Be clear, I am like, it's important to me to look good. But I also can do not looking good just as well. Like, I'm not bound. So when it comes time to choose your guide, like I'm even in that place now where I don't just want a man. First of, and then the whole kid thing, like how many, I haven't wanted children since I was a teenager, but I'm supposed to want one because I have a woman, that's what women do. I haven't wanted children since I was a teenager. Just this last year, I got word that a girl would like to come through me, but that's not me wanting it. That's communication that came through in communion. That's a totally different experience than the modern world is talking. And I'm selfish. I don't actually want, listen, under the right conditions, I will allow that to happen. In my current condition, I'm not interested. Okay, the communication came, a girl would like to come through me. Is that my want or is that communication that came through in communion? Will I agree with that? Because remember, you still have will. Will I agree with that? I'm sharing this with you to talk about not being bound to earthly things. That's why I'm sharing this with you. That if you are governed by, oh, this is right and this is wrong and this is moral and this is, then the communion that you're looking for is not going to happen. And to the degree that it does happen, you're going to reject it and deny it anyway because you're so busy trying to be moral and right and good. Just, ooh, I'm bad. I'm horrible, aren't I? I'm terrible. Like, Naima, you're such a devil. Like, go to hell. I'm wrapping up here. I love you too, Rochelle. I'm just waiting to see if anybody else has anything they'd like to say or ask before I go. You will be very well protected inside of the arrogant witch community. Telling the truth, you will be so very well protected. Just tell the truth, the whole truth. Come to see who you are. Will come to see who you are in the arrogant witch. When you see who you are, I'm telling you, you can turn it on and off at will. When I'm on, right, people bow down. And this is not, I know in the modern world, it's all about bow down bitches and it's this ego power play. I don't mean it like that. I do not mean it like that. When you know who you are, it just is. There is no pretentiousness. There is no trying to be something that you're not. There is not this, I'm a bad bitch as a mask to really cover up low self-esteem. It's none of that. It just is. And people feel it. They just, they get in line naturally, or they just get out the way. They just get in line naturally. So I'm telling you, for those of you who know what I'm saying, look, that's why I said in my marketing video, you have to be a magical melanin witch to even really get what I'm talking about. Because this is this is like not of this world shit, right? This is like, we're bringing something not of this world into this world. That's the whole point. Bringing that is not of this world into this world and making fantasies real. Making fantasies real. Making fantasies real. I mean, like blowing your own mind and making that your normal. Two husbands is not off the table. See, and then it's like redefining what that even means. Remember, that was an institution that was created. Like these people who are kicking knowledge and they have like normal ass marriages and lives, but they like true knowledge. First of all, it's chaotic, it's not bound to earthly ways, and you're not living in institutions in the way that the creator of the institution made it. The institution of marriage was about conglomerates of power. It was about control. It was about controlling women. It was about conglomerates of power. But you kicking knowledge, this is what I mean by you need to go commune. You need to have the intelligence that comes through you. It's creative intelligence. It's high, it's powerful, it's pure. And you know it because it comes through all your genitals. It's electric bolts. And you know it like nobody, and you don't even feel the need to debate and argue and fight with you because it comes through you so pure. It's the brightest, lightest, brightest light. This is what I want for you. This is, listen, if it ain't that, I don't want it. If it ain't that, I'm not interested in fighting over you, over who's right and what this meant and what they was doing in Kemet and feminine and masculine. Listen, if it's not the purest truth, I have the womb, sir, not you. And this is not to fight and disrespect. Just know your place, respect my place as I respect yours. It's bliss. Yes, Kiera. Hello, darling. So it's one thing to know knowledge. Like there's people on YouTube that have knowledge. Man, they got all of it. The Book of Revelation. Man, they got knowledge. They can decode. They can interpret. Men and women, are you walking the knowledge, dear? When you start walking the knowledge, it is evident. And I have been tricked by seeing people who have knowledge, whose knowledge comes from books. And those people are so afraid because it's not from within. This is another reason why I hold the standard for you to come into communion and come into your own knowing. Because when it comes through your genitals and electric bolts and you come into communion with the lightest, brightest, full light, you become fearless because it's in you. It's in you. It starts to override that biological fear, that biological like knee-jerk fear of ostracized, fear of being killed, fear of not, it starts to override that. And then it also helps to do some death rituals, which we will discuss inside of the Arrogant Witch community. It does help to do some death rituals. Okay? We are witches, right? So we have the power to do it all, okay? So our men need their sight corrected. Some of them know it, some of them don't know. Many of them are on the path to correcting their sight, and they don't realize that they are dependent on you. They don't realize it, many of them, that they are dependent on you knowing who you are. Because when you know who you are, you send messages to them directly and indirectly, non-verbally, about who they are and what their position is, and then they get in line. Just like other people who are around you who get in line by the way you be. And remember I said earlier, as I'm closing, you start today with where you are, with who you are. I'm not asking you to make some drastic leap if it's not in you right now to make a drastic leap. Now, if you're into leaps, because I love leaps. I like quantum big, I like leaps. Then you leap, darling. If you're not ready for a leap and you just want to take baby steps for now, that is completely okay. And you are still loved to the fullest and highest degree, okay? Either way, the Arrogant Witch community is for you. If what I've been talking about for the last 2 weeks resonate, not even resonates, but you know it's for you, okay? So doors open a week from today. It's an application process. Doors will be open only for 1 week, okay? So from Monday to Monday, doors will be open. If you're not already on the email list, remember there will be a link beneath this video for you to come into the email community, right? Put in your email, you get that 9-page report that I told you about 5 bad ways to begin commanding larger amounts of money. When you click the link that's going to be beneath this video. And that's that. Doors are going to open next Monday. All right. Camille, I had a meeting, so I missed the first half of today's show. I can't wait to watch this whole thing. Yeah, I can't wait for you to watch the whole thing back. So we are more. We are so much more. We are not just Black women. We are beyond Black women. We are even not just witches. We are beyond witches. We are divine beings in these feminine bodies who have been incarnated to come do specific work that's in our DNA. And we are detached or detaching from earthly ways of being. We are becoming fearless. We are making it a habit and a normal to commune with all entities so that we receive the knowledge, the true knowledge that's signature to you, that is signature to you, that nobody can give to you and nobody can take away. Hello, okay? And then your job is to act on that and bring it out into the world to make your fantasies real. I love you guys so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. It is taking me so long to get here. When there's a piece of what I say that is because I have done the chaotic vibration, the scare, the in and out, the I'm doing it, I'm not doing it, the even hanging on to men who I don't even respect, but the dick is good because I can be around them because I know they don't see me. So I don't have nobody to hold me to account, right? Because I know they don't see me, right? And I don't respect them. And all we doing is fucking and having a good time. Like allowing myself to be bound to that. Like I've been through and seen so much, right? And I've gone through so many doors. And I've broken myself away from so many earthly things. You are so astoundingly powerful. And I know that because I know that. Because I know that. Not because I read it in a book. Not because a master teacher told me. So it needs to come through you. Get away from the study of these books. Listen, okay, and let me be clear. If you love your books, you love your books, right? So you keep that up, right? But all I'm saying is the full power is going to come from the communing, what happens in your experience with you and all the entities that are invisible, that are influencing things. Baby. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you so much, beautifuls. I feel like I'm going to be here, even though I'm only supposed to be here on Monday this week. I feel like I'm going to be here again this week because so much is streaming through, and the thought of withholding until next Monday kind of feels maddening and constricting. So I don't know when this week I'm coming. You know what? I'm going to make a decision right now. I'm coming Wednesday at the same time. Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, I will be here. Lots of love. Remember to like the video and subscribe.